We're going to talk about trauma. We're going to touch on it. We're going to dissect it. We're going to break it down from a multi-dimensional viewpoint. Hey there, I'm Alex. Welcome to my channel. I'm a nervous system coach and I help you master your energy so you can begin actualizing your ideal life. Trauma, those highly emotional charged moments of our life that we can all relate to. And I want to break this down. I want to feel into it and I want to look at it from this multi-dimensional angle, which it needs to be to fully understand it and to start comprehending it. As humans, we navigate through life picking up highly emotional charged debris within our nervous system. I want to compare this to the animal kingdom. When a zebra gets away from a lion and gets to safety, it resets its nervous system by doing a specific, like it shakes, it resets, but it goes into a state of almost flow state, which we could label as humans. We talk about different brainwave states, which is beta, which is fast-paced brainwave, which is thinking, which is cognitive function. Then we have alpha, which is when the brain starts to slow down and we achieve a much more centered flow state, in the moment, present moment awareness. And that's what we need to be in to process these highly emotional charged moments, which the zebra does when it gets away. So the zebra, when it does that, and it also doesn't start thinking, what did I do to annoy the lion or tiger or whatever's trying to eat me up? But because we're humans, we have this thinking capacity which keeps our brains in this elevated, fast-paced state. We start questioning what's happening here. What did I do to annoy this person? What have I done to do this? What have I done to deserve it? Da, 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 da. So many questions come in, which keeps our physiology into this high-paced, fast cycles per second condition. And it's through this process that we do not fulfill the primordial physiological response that is happening within us. And it's through this, we don't categorize the memory of the event in the sequence that it's meant to be in. I'm trying to make this clear, as concise as I can. So when we process a physiological response through its full process, the memory gets stored away and it gets stored into a processed part, which is beyond recall, and it doesn't flash up within our mind. Like PTSD is a great example of this, post-traumatic stress. Because we can be in a normal environment many years later, and we can still have these triggers coming up from this past emotional event. And that's a sign that the process hasn't been fulfilled. There's still undischarged trauma energy within our nervous system. And we pick up pockets of this. We pick up these little bits of debris as we go along life. And we end up having these unfulfilled processes, these unconscious memories that are beyond recall, but they keep getting brought to the surface because the process is unfulfilled. And the trouble is, we get into such a state and condition that we continuously be in a very high elevated state of contraction and stress and activation. And it's through that baseline of high level of activation and contraction that we keep these physiological processes being unfulfilled. And that's why breath work is really fantastic when it comes to working with trauma, emotional charges, trauma patterning, unfulfilled processes, undischarged trauma energy. Because we start to bring the baseline of activation down. We start to lower that activation down. And we can do that with, I do use conscious connected breathing with it, which is a rhythmic breath, which we do over a certain amount of time, 30 minutes to an hour, maybe a little bit longer, maybe. But the breath that has been shown to dramatically lower the stress fear center. And we can talk about the amygdala, which is our fear center, which is within the brain and within the limbic system of the body. And it's these centers that stay highly charged and activated, which then create us to be overactivated, even when we're in perceived safety. But what is going on within us is perceiving that there's a threat and unsafety going on. That's where we have this confliction with what's going on inwardly and what's going on outwardly. We can even be watching the telly sometimes and we can have a physiological response go off. We can not be watching anything, just being on our own can create this feeling of deep unsafety. And it's coming from this inward space of high levels of activation and contraction that is happening within us. These unfulfilled unconscious memories. We're talking deep now, man. We're talking deep in our unconscious memory bank. These emotional memories that we have, these trauma patterns have been impressed onto the subconscious mind, and they play out on repeat because they are in this unfulfilled state. They're in this high level of activation, which inhibits them from being fulfilled. So once we start transcending the brainwave states, which is what happens through breath work, we start coming from beta brainwave, which is that thinking, fast-paced brainwave. We come into alpha. We start coming into that state, essentially, that the zebra was in when it's getting away from the lion and the tiger, and it gets to safety. We guide our nervous system into a slower-paced state, guided by our brain chemistry, our brain physiology, as well as that as this energetically harmonizing the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. We utilize this nervous system as a tool to shift our state, to start beginning to bring up these unprocessed physiological responses that have been pressed on the subconscious mind to the surface to be processed and fulfilled. And how do we know this? How do we know this? Subjectively, I've experienced this within myself, and then I've observed it experientially with clients that I work with. There's a drastic difference between the before and after of when we've got unfulfilled trauma energy within us to when we release it through a breathwork process. This is why it's so awesome. This is why breathwork is such a fundamental tool when it comes to reshaping a very cellular, granular level. We start to dive into and relax everything inwardly on a really profound degree, but simultaneously energizing it so we can energetically work through these unfulfilled processes. And we can see whether we have this going on within our life. We can see and observe it within our life. We can feel it experientially, whether we have this or not. How do we know? How well are we triggered? What triggers us in our world? How often are we triggered? How volatile are we in the world? How reactive are we? How susceptible are we to being extremely sensitive to what we're responding to? How easy do we find it to navigate the contrast within our life? These are all telltale signs, and within your energy and makeup and your well-being and your energy and your wellness and your in the moment now experience, fatigue, lethargy, all of this is a sign that we have this unfulfilled process going on within us, because when we have this high amount of activation and hostility within us, I'll use that word, it naturally, the byproduct of that will be, it's going to wear us out. We're going to go to burnout. We're going to be seeking out sugar, caffeine, drugs, alcohol. We're going to try anything we can to try and numb what is going on within us. And all of this is a massive sign that something's going on within us as individuals and as a collective. The deeper level of all this stuff that we hear about online, about stress, about trauma, about everything that's going on, about burnout, about anxiety, depression. These are all signs that there's a misalignment going on within us. And it comes down to, on a very large degree, these unfulfilled processes that are going on within us. The answers are within our nervous system, my friends. The answers are within our nervous system. And the cool thing about all of this, and I say this often, that we do have the chance and opportunity to start resolving and realigning our inward landscape on a really profound degree by conscious communication with our nervous system via the breath, via breath work. It is the bridge to many, many answers we are seeking very much on an unconscious level. We're very much working unconsciously here, because on the conscious level, we're very confused of what's going on. We don't know what's happening. But unconsciously, there's a call and a pull to these certain types of activity that we could do to really help our physiological makeup. When we start to do this, we go on an alchemical process when it comes to our trauma. When we start to resolve trauma patterning, we start to resolve these processes within us, we go on an alchemical process. We start to alchemize energetically everything that's going on within us. How can I make this relatable? Once what was feared now becomes exciting. We are easing and releasing the fear response within us. And through that, we are opening up our vision from, instead of being in survival paradigm, which is very narrow, in the moment, how can I just get through this moment, to breathe, expansion, a wider viewpoint of reality, and an expanded and higher velocity of expansion on our lives, which gives us space to find clearness beyond the thoughts, beyond the volatility. We start to ease that down. And through that, we start to have a new perception. The dawn of a new perception comes from this alchemical process when we resolve these inner mechanics and dynamics that are going on within us. The world is viewed completely differently. Your fellow brothers and sisters that you may once have condemned silently are now seen through the eyes of love. And this is the classic from fear to love going on here, my friends. To polarize it, create a bit of a paradox. Yeah. From fear to love. This is the journey of this resolution, essentially. From the survival paradigm to the spiritual paradigm. Transformation, profound transformation. How you view your life will be completely different. And that opens up the doors to new questions. Instead of like thinking, how can I get through the day? It's like, what is my purpose? What am I here for? What do I want out of my life? What is good for me? What's in alignment for me in this now moment? Your self-care and self-love shoots up through the roof. You become much more compassionate to self and to others and the world that we live in. Deeper degrees of understanding come through this transformation. This is why it's a multi-dimensional, multifaceted overview of trauma. It's so multifaceted, guys. It's so multifaceted. Your journey is multifaceted. And what we're talking about here is with the birthing of a new story. I talk about creating a new story very, very much. The resolution of this trauma patterning within us and discharging undischarged trauma energy is the birthing of a new story. New neurological pathways are created because of the physiological responses, the new physiological responses that are happening within your body. Stress hormones are going to start getting switched off. Heart rate's going to come down. Neurotransmitters like anandamide, the bliss molecule, are going to come on. Serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins, dopamine. These are the spirit, higher vibrational neurochemicals and transmitters which are released when we start to resolve this. Once we come away from the stress response, we come away from stress hormones, we come away from cortisol. The realignment is on such a profound physiological level, but is reflected very much as well on a deep cellular energetic level as well. And all of this can happen from how we breathe and introducing breath work consistently into our lives. And this is why I love it so much, because I felt it in my own experience. I've experienced it profoundly in my own journey, and now I'm facilitating and seeing it in other people's lives as well. Sending you so much love on your journey, your story that's got you up to this point. We always have compassion because the story, no matter what it's been created from, whether it's from our trauma, whether it's from whatever, the turbulence, it's still got us here now. We're still here. We're still here, ready to learn this and to start undoing everything that's going on and to enjoy the journey of this alchemical transformational process that we are all on, some more unconscious and conscious than others. Thank you for being here, my friends. Thank you for being here right now, listening to this, feeling to your journey. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you in the next video.